So the first skill we're going to be looking at today in this lesson is parallelism. Our objective for today is through the study of various texts, the student will be able to identify and correct non-parallel grammatical forms. You'll demonstrate mastery through an EOC-style exit ticket at the end of the assessment that will have parallelism as well as the other skills we're going to look at today in it. So first, in the orange box on your paper, I want you to write down what do you think parallel means and where else would you find this word or where else would you use it? So with rhetorical devices, we've talked about parallel, meaning that it is a repeated or similar structure, and it emphasizes the sameness of something. So it's not actual repetition of words, but it's repetition of the same structure or form. So if you'll write down in the orange box, parallelism is a similar grammatical form. So today we're going to be looking at more of the grammar side of parallelism versus the rhetorical side. So we're going to be looking at repeated words, phrases, and clauses, and patterns and how punctuation influences those things. If a sentence is non-parallel, it disrupts the flow of the sentence and it doesn't make as much sense. So the example here that I have are these different the same pattern or style of dress, but they're different colors. So that's kind of the same idea with parallelism. It's going to be the same structure of words, phrases, clauses, punctuation, but with different words and ideas. If you'll write down this slide as well in the orange box, if you are using a series of words, they should all be the same part of speech. So if you have the structure of subject, verb, and direct object, and you're repeating that structure over and over again, you need to make sure you have that same pattern and that you don't mix up the order and write it verb, subject, direct object. So an example down here that we have is the Hollywood celebrity was charming, witty, and a beauty. Well, here, these different words that we have in the series, charming, witty, and a beauty. Charming is an adjective. Witty is an adjective. And a beauty is a noun. So that's not parallel. So down here, we have changed it to be adjective, 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 and another adjective. You change the noun form beauty into beautiful to make it an adjective and make the sentence parallel. All right, so also, if you are using a series of verbs, they should all be the same verb tense. So we have different tenses of verbs. We have past, present, future. There's also other types, past perfect, present perfect, and so on and so forth. But we're just going to focus on past, present, and future today. So in this example, at the park, Jamie walked, jumped, and runs all over the place. So I need to look at the different verbs that I have here, walked, jumped, and runs, and identify the tense. So walked is past, jumped is past, and then runs is present. So that's not parallel. So I have to come down here and change runs to ran, which is also past. All right, the next thing with parallelism, you also have to match in number. So what that means is the number of words if you have items in a series. So for example, many of the people on the team are nice, one word, kind, one word, and show you how to do things. That's multiple words. This is a phrase. So that's not parallel in structure. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to change this phrase to one word, helpful, that sums up what this means. And then nice, kind, and helpful, that is parallel. Okay, the last thing that you have to focus on with parallel structure are phrases and clauses, and this is kind of difficult. because sometimes it's hard to tell the different types of phrases and clauses. So if you guys will write this down also in the orange box, and then let's look at our examples. His goal was playing professional basketball or to become a physical therapist. Okay, so this is the beginning of the sentence. His goal, this is my subject and my verb. And then I have these two phrases separated by or. So I'm going to put parentheses around my phrases so I can see where they are. Okay, so one phrase says playing professional basketball. If I have an ing on the end of a word that begins a phrase, that's going to make it a participial phrase. If I have to and then a verb at the beginning of a phrase, that's going to be an infinitive phrase. The easiest way for you all to remember this is just if you have different forms, if it says playing and to become instead of playing or becoming, if it's not parallel in the structure of those first words of the phrase, then that's going to be a problem. So the way to fix that is just what I just said a second ago. Change to become to becoming down here, and it will make them the same type of phrase. Okay, let's correct a few sentences before we try our EOC type questions with this skill. So what you're going to do is you are going to answer these questions on the Nearpod after I model for you, and then you will go to your paper and you will answer EOC style questions. And there's an I do, which you're actually going to do on your own, and then there's going to be several you do. So you need to practice the EOC style questions on your own there. Okay, so here are our 3 steps to identify parallel construction or correct non-parallel construction. First, you're going to underline items in a series and then determine which form is used most frequently in the sentence. And you're going to circle which form is used most frequently. And then you're going to change the words that do not match and you're going to rewrite the sentence. Okay, I'm going to model this one. The tribe emphasized collective survival, mutual aid, and being responsible for one another. So I'm going to underline items in a series. So I see my commas here, and that gives me a clue that these are probably items in a series. So I see collective survival, the collective is describing survival, so I'm going to include that. Mutual aid, mutual is describing aid, I'm going to include that. And then being responsible for one another. Okay, then my next step says circle which form is used most frequently in the sentence. So I'm going to look for numbers, I'm going to look for parts of speech, I'm going to look for verbs and see if there's any consistency in any of those. So the first thing that stands out to me is that there are 2 words here and then there are 2 words here and they're separated by a comma. So I'm thinking that this is probably parallel in number. That's what the author was aiming to do. But they failed when they got to the last one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to circle these 2 because those are the ones that are used most frequently. And then I'm going to go on to step 3 and I'm going to rewrite my sentence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the tribes emphasized collective survival, mutual aid, and equal responsibility. Okay, so what I did is I chose 2 words here to be consistent with the other 2 words in the items in the series. And I knew it had to do something with responsibility, so I knew I needed to include something there for responsibility. So I included that word, and then I also added an adjective just like my other items in the series had. If you will go now to the next slide and do the next two on your own, and then if you will go to your paper and complete the EOC style questions on parallel structure.